Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Fed Up with me, the eternal miserable one. Fed Up guys, join me today is Dan, aka Dr. D from Chaos Doctrine from Johannesburg in South Africa. How is it going today, man?
Yeah, it's going well, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. I'm pretty stoked. We've got there. We've got there. Yay, at last.
It only took months. It only took
yeah,
months.
yeah. It's only like
Not
taken us like
years.
6 years to arrange. So, man, so much to talk about today, and I'm really excited as well. And I think the great place to start would be the recent single, One of My Bad Days. I've had a few of them, man. And when I was listening to this, I thought it'd be perfect for a soundtrack if you're stuck in a traffic jam and you've got a migraine, and you think, yeah, I'm going to make everyone else suffer as well. So let's wind the windows down, blast this out. So could you just tell us a little bit about how you come up with the name for the song, what the themes and concepts are behind it as well?
It's quite a nice angle you have there. I think it could work. So the truth of where the name is from, I actually stole the name from a Pink Floyd song called One of My Turns, which is on the wall. He actually says that the phrase "one of my bad days," but obviously our song is not about the same thing at all. So what One of My Bad Days is all about is about somebody who's in interrogation, and telling the interrogator, yeah, I killed these people, but it was just one of my bad days. So the first line of the song goes, this is not a confession that would imply guilt. So he doesn't feel guilty. He doesn't even think he did anything wrong. What he's saying is, I had a shit day, so fuck it. They shouldn't have been there when I was having a shit day, So it's a nice thrash death metal theme, murder, death, kill,
Yeah, got the horror vibe really amped up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of those like old school movies, Michael Douglas falling down, where
I love that movie.
Where he has a bad day.
Oh,
with a classic scene in the fast food restaurant, man, with a burger, why doesn't it look like that?
Yeah.
That's a classic. There's supposed to be doing a sequel to that, and I don't know what's happened. I haven't heard anything on it for quite some time.
That would have been epic. I really, really love that movie. My favorite scene is on the golf course when he die, and he goes, "Well, maybe you should have just let me walk across your golf course."
Yeah. I think it's a very smart movie with very, very on the point social commentary, which would be even more so relevant with like the kind of obsession people have with some of these sites where I feel that they're kind of sucked into the matrix. It's almost like at times you feel like you're Neo, you've took the red pill, and seeing how people like say something when I go running, and I'm through the park and there's people doing and something like this. I'm just like,
I do think to some extent, I'm not going to say all metalheads, but I think a lot of metalheads are a little bit more enlightened to the world, just because of the nature of our music. And maybe there's parts of us that attract us to metal where you see the darker side of society more often than the folk who's all like, yay, happy beach party,
Yeah.
And I think the older you get and the more you see the shit, I just think it gets worse. So I haven't watched the TV news probably in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because just fuck it. I find shit out by accident or like 3 days later. So, just because of that same reason, I don't need real life to fucking depress me. I've got enough of my own shit to deal with.
Well, there's certainly no shortage of material for extreme metal music for sure. No. If you just take around it, and if you stop to really think about it, especially going on it, it's so depressing. I mean, a depressive black metal band could just release album after album if they'd just be there non-stop. But I thought like with metal, even with hardcore punk to an extent as well, it's always got this like humorous, exaggerated. And I think that's the way it's done so that they can get away with it, like commentary on kind of the social standing history as well, and it's often done in a very theatrical element. I mean, as we'll get into, talking more about your own music, I can hear that even in your songs. There was one which I'll wait till we get to that song, but I could even hear like in the outro, and it had that very cinematic feel. And it almost, you probably know what I'm talking about already. And dude, it almost had me thinking of being in this kind of like dystopian city in one of those grimy alleys. It really did have that. But I'll behave myself because I'm getting quite hyper and far ahead of myself. So we'll just
that's
focus.
Great, though, because the word dystopia is something that for me is one that reflects our lyrics a lot and that reflects our artwork. If you look at our first album cover, that's really what we were going for. You've got people hanging from electricity posts, and you've just it's empty and barren. And I think the word, if I had to choose one word to describe all my lyrics, I think this topic is a pretty good one, because I mean the songs vary, and in metal you are limited on your themes. The old what Ozzy said, you can't play heavy metal and sing about putting flowers in your hair, that kind of shit. So our themes are still very old school, because we are very old school. But yeah, I like that theme. It's dark and grimy.
Yeah, and it's one that is as technology continuously evolves and progresses, it's like we're heading more towards kind of that reality in a way. And metal recently, I feel, has been evolving itself. We are seeing now some other themes come in there. People even, I've talked about this on some of the recent episodes, like looking back at ancient cultures, first world nations, using those instruments and kind of, in a way, even using some positive messages to remind people of, hey, here's a balance that we used to have that I think we've forgotten now. We've kind of lost something. But one of my bad days, man, it's certainly, as I said, it's certainly a rager. It's even got that bit of a groove aspect to it. I was reading, I'm probably going to upset the artist greatly here, and I intently, this is not my intention, it really isn't, but I kind of have a hostile relationship with surrealism, because with doing creative writing and screenwriting at uni, I was forced poetry and surrealism down my throat every day. And it was like, I've seen more images of Dali with his fancy mustache holding it there, and I was just like, oh, dude,
I love Dali. I'm a huge surrealism fan, but I never studied art. I never had anything shoved down my throat. So when it comes to art, I'll choose surrealism first and impressionism second, mostly because those are the only styles that I know.
We had to do this presentation, I remember, at the time, on Dali, and there was one of this image of him with like the handlebars mustache, and I remember seeing the guy after, I went, I cannot wait to get this semester done so we don't have to stand here talking about this anymore. I thought, I'm just so tired of it. And like, if I have to hear about this one more time. Anyway, enough of my ranting, because I've just realized I'm doing a disservice here.
I love it.
But the what's interesting though with the artist that is reading about them, who did this artwork for Bad Days. Yeah, it's got that surrealist horror vibe there, and it's got the color melded, because a lot of the surrealism, especially the old school stuff, very much has like the dark imagery, the black and white, not so much on the color. So this was kind of interesting. I feel it's got that modern feel. Definitely goes along with the dystopian themes, which we'll probably even talk about more as the show goes on, and it's got that. I'm going to say it. It's kind of like an industrial version of surrealism, actually.
Yeah, actually. And you know what? I had no input into that art. So not none, but let me explain. I saw this dude. I saw this dude's art on Facebook, and I was like, fuck yeah. So I spoke to him, because like I said, I love surrealism. So I said, here's what I want. I sent him my lyrics. I sent him the song. I said, in the picture, I want gallows rope, and I want a gavel, because those two objects appear in my lyrics. And the rest, I was like, go nuts. And he came back with this bright red, yellow, orange picture. And I was like, holy fuck, like it, I'd always say blew my mind because it sounds so corny, but it did. I was like, how do you do something so dark and nasty with all these bright colors, you know? And that really got me. And the rest of the band were also like, holy shit, look at this. So if you go on our social media and you see when we started launching the song, I did all kinds of, you know, you put it through filters. I did all kinds of stuff with it. But the original one just still looks the best, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, man, like,
Well,
it does grab you though in a way. People think, hang on, this guy was ranting about it a minute ago. It'd been far nicer if we could have looked at something like this instead of the same close-up shots of Dali in his face with just something like that, man.
Or riding in his goat chariot.
Yeah. Maybe a way to get through it would have been 420'd up for sure. But anyway, I digress again. But it's what I like about it. As I've said, it's got the modern kind of industrial flair, even a tribal edge to it as well. Like all this fused together as if it's like a soul in a way who's struggling. Hey, there's our background guest.
Yeah, I just muted quick. I have 6 dogs listeners, so you will hear more barking tonight.
It's all right. It's all right. All good. Yeah, it's kind of if it's reflecting somebody's like spirit or soul that's struggling, like with the different aspects in it. So I found it very interesting. And if you think as well in extreme metal, and this is not to bash any of the artists or artwork out there, but we usually, you know, we see the very, you know, the typical, you know, gore horror themes and everything. Whereas this is different. It's something different.
Yeah.
It's still got that horror vibe, but it's different about it. It hasn't gone in for the usual tropes, and that's no disrespect to the bands that use that imagery or the artists that make that work. I mean, hell, it's better than anything I could do for sure. So that's what I thought was appealing with it, man.
Yeah, I like symbolism. I like symbolism in my lyrics. I like symbolism in our art, and most of our art is done by our bass player Phil. But every now and then I give him a break. You know, I give him some creative time off.
Yeah.
So our previous single was called Martyr, and Martyr is quite sort of Paradise Lost, gothy kind of vibe. And the track for that was done by a sketch artist that I know. And she does people's pets and stuff. And her husband's also like death metal, you know. So I was like, don't you want to do this for me? And that one I briefed her. I was like, I want a jester. I want him being burnt at the stake, and this is what I want. And she just delivered, you know. So when you think of why would you have a clown on the stake and the song is called Martyr, it's because I think being a martyr is the same as being a fucking clown. Like, what are you doing? You're dying for stupid shit, you know. And that's what the lyrics are all about. And so yeah, I like for people to see shit in the art. So I agree with you. And what's cool about Russ Stein is the oak who did One of My Bad Days. He had his own vision, and what I really like about art always is what I'm going to see and what you're going to see is different.
Yeah,
and that's really
interpretation.
I think that's what makes studying art, music, poetry, whatever, a little bit shit, because your lecturer somebody decided this is what this is about, and they try to convince you. I'm not hearing that. I'm not seeing that. Fuck off.
Yeah,
this is what I'm seeing. You know.
What I think, totally, man. It's those different interpretations we can come up with, and I always say this to everything. It's kind of an internal quest, which we can relate this to pretty much every aspect of life. But it's striving for that balance. If you get too much of something rammed down your throat, it's like, say, look, I'm a big lover of grindcore and hardcore as well. So if someone is new to that, and I'm going to constantly just grindcore, and hardcore non-stop, it's probably going to have the opposite effect, turn them off. So I feel, don't get me wrong, I love that course that I did. It was super interesting, man. I mean, sometimes it was literally object in a room, lights off, and then look at that. Here's a minute, right, the first thing that comes to mind. I want this done or whatever. So there was lots of interesting kind of even freestyle stuff like that on it. I just feel at times we had the poetry and surrealism a bit rammed down our throats a bit too much. Whereas I think if they took more of a balanced approach with that, we'd have probably appreciated it much more, because you can't say that, look, there's not a vision there, that there's not messages, there's not a reflection, say, on that period of history, or that it can't be applied to the world that we're living in now, and so on. So anyway, I'm nerding. Something I'll continue to do.
We're talking about art. Let's
Yeah.
talk about metal and Satan.
Yeah. Oh, I go off topic all the time. Dude, if you talk to Brett and Minnie before this show, I don't know if you did from them into your project, I'd probably give you a warning. This guy can like gobshite for the world. Go off topic.
Digressing is good. Digressing is good.
Yeah. It's I think that's why we encourage people to do so on the show. That's for sure. We keep that nice organic flow. But I just want. Well, is this going to be part of a forthcoming album as well? One of My Bad Days. And
Yes.
Yes. Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Dan?
We're busy with our third album. We're in phase 29,532 of mixing because we are 3 OCD guys in the band. And we've restarted mixing about 38 times. So we actually, today, we spent the whole day, we jammed a little bit because we've got a show coming up. And and then we mixed. So we're in the final stage of mix and master. And so we're thinking album will probably come out early next year. 9 songs, brand new. One of My Bad Days is on there. Our previous single, Martyrs, on there. And our single from I don't even know, 18 months ago, Lifting the Veils, on there. So this album will be heavy. It will be varied. A lot of industrial, a lot of metal, a lot of death metal, a lot of thrash metal. We like to fuck around. We like to explore different things and do new things that we haven't done before. But we also like to progress in our songwriting and our maturity and in production. We do our own production, and Alec, our guitarist, he is getting so good at it. So every time he learns something new, that's why I keep saying we're on phase 38 of mixing. Every time he learns something new, he's like, I have to redo everything because we've now got this thing and this is better. And now you can hear this better. And we're like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go again. So the album has been done 12 times, But in the end, I always say rather spend the time. Otherwise, 2 years from now, we're like, oh, if only we spent that extra 2 weeks. And that's my regret with our previous album and with the album before that. So the albums aren't bad, but they don't have the production value that brings justice to the songs, I think.
Right.
Where now I think we're there.
It's interesting you say that, and maybe this is my kind of hardcore and punk side coming through. Some of your early songs from 2017 have got. I really like them for that reason, because they're really raw. Because they're raw. And that's why there'll be people saying, oh, that's you, because you're used to doing that. Anything that's got more than a duller production, you don't. And I'm like, I can't help it, man. It's a, and I think that can be, I ask this question a lot to bands as well, is like, how do you strive for that balance where you still want to keep a bit of the rawness, and then, but not sound too clean, not sound like a polished turd, I guess.
What makes our music more complex to make raw is because there's so many layers. So when you are a classic metal band or a punk band, you've got a guitar or two, bass, vocals, drums.
Yes.
You've got percussion in the form of, we call them doofs and clangs, right? We've got keyboards. We've got voice loops from movies and shit. We've got loops and samples running. And so if you want a cool heavy guitar sound, you can only have it in this piece, because in this piece, if you have a heavy guitar sound, you're not going to hear those 3 things. And one of the hardest things to learn about music is you can't have everything. You have to every now and then say, I'm sorry, these 3 things you can't have because you want these 3 things.
Yeah.
So that makes striking that balance you're talking about even more difficult, because the more raw, the more you go towards the raw side, the more you lose things that you're not going to hear in the mix just because they're hiding in a guitar frequency or in a bass frequency or in a vocal frequency. Yeah. Also, because if you're playing a more like a deathy kind of vocal that I do, I start infringing on the guitar frequency and he starts infringing on mine. And when you play in B like we do, if the guitar's too deep, he starts playing where the bass is, So it's science, dude. That's why it's called engineering, I guess, because you have to physically go and look at the fucking science of this, and then you get to play the art. So we always say to ourselves, let's try not, it mustn't sound like a pop production. but at the same time, it needs to be clean enough to hear everything, you know?
Yeah, not like some of the lo-fi black metal where it's just literally so unlistenable. I mean, I like raw, but that's a whole other, yeah.
A Zoom metal zone in a toilet.
Yeah, yeah. Or the yeah.
Recorded with that Sony, my first Sony recorder, onto tape, and then copied a couple times.
Yeah, it's almost. I remember this. When I used to do the radio shows, were they called Pora Loca? Possibly that's the name. I may have that wrong. And they were from Brazil, and they call themselves Noise Core Stroke Electronica, because he had a drum. No, he didn't have a drum machine. It was literally, those people who use actual real appliances, music, like washing machines. It was one of those kind of bands, and he wanted airplay decision. I was saying, I'm like, dude, I played a lot of raw stuff, DB, crust punk, power violence, grindcore, hardcore, all of that. That was pretty much what my shows were, with death, thrash, and sludge. And I sat there and I thought, look, I play a lot of raw, but this is even below what my ears are used to. I'm like, dude, there's no way. Someone will comment on this straight away, even like the owners of the station. I just thought this isn't going to fly.
I think it's cool to be creative, and I'm not dissing anyone. I'm saying this from 100% personal experience. You can put anything into a song, but you have to know that the more stuff you put in, the more the chances of those frequencies colliding with one another. And if you have too much stuff in, you hear nothing. It's just as simple as that. Then it all sits in the middle of your song, and it goes like, rather than you hearing, all that shit disappears. You just get a noise in the middle.
I'm getting the sense, man, as you said, where you're having to make those sacrifices, take two or three things out. It kind of reminds me of the filmmaking process. When they go to the final cut and they say, right, we have to take these scenes out. And you hear them like, you hear stories of people, oh, no, I really want to leave this in. And then, you'll get a director's cut, special edition or whatever, where you've got the 30 minutes of unseen footage. But I think that must be such a difficult decision at times, because especially if you really like those parts, you've got to take out, like, I really like this, but to make this song truly work, I know they've got to go. And as you were saying, you've got the raw with the early stuff, and that's still there with the later material. You've even, obviously I can hear the Fear Factory, Sepultura vibe coming through. There's that groove element there as well. Definitely the HM2 Swedish vibe there. You've got the guest appearance. We'll talk about that as well. Guest appearance from one of the Swedish dudes. But then there's some songs, on your Bandcamp where they have totally different, very dark industrial, literally more beat driven. When I'm going to give them a shout out to Brett and Minnie from the Medea Project. I know you've got a show today. You said you want to watch this live later, but massive shout out. And sorry couldn't get to that show the weekend because of other engagement. It's sucked, man. But when I was talking to them, great folks, I was going off on nerd tangents just like I'm with you, Dan. I was mentioning like with industrial, and you've got at the moment as well, like that dark electronic underground with dark techno, dark house, and some of that stuff, man, it's like heavy in a different way, and it's just as nasty as death, black, and thrash, and it's got those sinister movie kind of effects in the outros, and you've got that in your songs and in those industrial focus tracks. Now, as a massive, movie nerd outside of music as well, that instantly grabs me. I'm like, man, it's because it's got that dark sci-fi edge as well. I'm like, man, you've got me. So cool. I'll try and calm myself for a moment or two.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. We've been trying, since we experiment, and we, you hear stuff and you play with stuff. Like when I started this band in, let's call it 2011. What I wanted to do was like a heavy Rob Zombie. Not White Zombie, a heavy Rob Zombie. I prefer White Zombie. Don't get me wrong. I would take White Zombie over Rob Zombie solo stuff any day. But I would sit in nightclubs and like they play Rob Zombie and all the girls get up and dance. I was like, that looks interesting. But I just love thrash metal too much, and my bass player is a huge death metal fan, and we were like Slayer fanatics. So it became much heavier than Rob Zombie very, very quickly. But the White Zombie tone is something I try. You won't hear it in all the songs. Not all our songs are equally industrial, but all our songs are fucking metal.
Yeah.
But I try and, we try and keep some of that old school alive. But at the same time, we also listen to your much more progressive song bands like Septic Flesh and those guys.
Oh, they're fantastic.
That do insane shit. So we listened to that and we're like, how did they blend all of those with a heavy tone, and what did they do there? But yeah, you're right. That old Ministry, Fear Factory, that kind of stuff, definitely big influence on our way of thinking. And that became ingrained. So we don't even think about it anymore. It's just how we think now,
But it's nice that you've got these different aspects. Septic Flesh, I think, are fantastic. Yeah, exactly. I love that blend of using orchestral music with heavy music. The album before the most recent, I think it's got a song called On Order of Dracul, and it's kind of like it almost is like a musical version of the story of Dracula in a way. And it's there's one song where it just totally breaks off into classical music.
Oh yeah,
and just stops altogether. Yeah, and it's
often, and then there's the clean singing and the female operatic vocals. I love it. I love it.
Dude, it's fantastic. Have you heard?
Just next level,
Oh, totally. Have you heard of the?
Yeah.
Oh, I love bands who do that. It's like ADE or Aid from Italy, who they had George Calais on one of their albums from Nile, pretty much like the Roman version of Nile, and it's blending like this heavy music with ancient Roman instruments. And dude, it works. It's just got that different edge to it. But I'll turn your attention back to your own music for a second, because I'm getting more. I had a feeling we'd be like this, just from how we've been talking views. Yeah, I wouldn't sit here and promote my own band. We'll just
Once I did an interview like this with a page in the States, and I think we spent half of it just talking about Slayer.
Dude, I'm terrible. I keep saying in more or less every show, right, I'll calm myself for a minute, as I think I just said literally like 5 minutes ago. I'll get back on topic, because if someone mentions something that like a common interest, bands, movies, martial arts, anything like that, that's it. I'm terrible.
Of course, dude. But that's cool. That's what makes for fun interviews, right?
Yeah, just going off on random tangents. I have to put a disclaimer out, I think, for future shows. So, have you got a? Yeah. Have you got a? I appreciate if you maybe don't want to reveal the title yet. Just don't we?
We do, but we're not going to throw it at you yet.
Good.
What I will tell you is it's a much shorter title than our previous album.
Nice.
It's one word this time, not 35.
And are you going along the same themes again? Kind of like that social commentary, dystopian themes as well, the horror vibe. Okay.
I think a bit. There's still. I'm just running through the 9 songs in my head, so there's still a bit of the social commentary. 1 or 2 songs about that. This time I did a little bit of history research too. So I love writing songs about things and people. So we have Father Gregorian, our previous album, which is all about Rasputin. There's also The Right on our previous album, which has got like a Robert Johnson voodoo, sell your soul to the devil kind of vibe. The new album, I wanted to do more specific things. So one track is called Heretic, and it's about Akhenaten, who is the father of Tutankhamen, and he was the big heretic pharaoh. So we did a song about him because I find him fascinating. We did a song called The Destroyer, which is all about Shiva, the Indian god, but it's about nuclear warfare. So bringing those together, so I wanted to play with themes a little bit more than just sticking to the societal lies theme, but there's still a lot of that. I can't get away from that. So our first single of this album is Lifting the Veil, which is all about I call it Wacko Texas David Koresh on steroids. So it's like religion infused genocide, or like if you take a cult and you blow it up, you get something called the Roman Catholic Church, and then you get to kill a lot of people, not just a couple. So Lifting the Veil is actually if you look up the word apocalypse, the Greek root of it means lifting the veil. So the song is about almost bringing about an apocalypse from a cult leader's perspective, first person. So yeah, play with themes as long as it's metal, you know.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing as well. If you again, I'm
digressing.
Yeah, no, I digress. I'm just thinking how to put this because I have a very broad spectrum of guests and audience as well.
Of course.
Look, I'll say it like this. Disclaimer alert, folks. No one is bashing anybody's choice in what they want to believe in or anything like that. The show's open to all. But what Dan is saying as well is looking at like from a historical perspective, how there's people who've got themselves in positions of power through whatever method, and then they've used whatever that is as a tool for their own agenda. And it's sadly, when you look at things in history, even now, some things that are happening now, and you're thinking, man, this is just frighteningly alarming. And I've probably really understated that. And yeah, as we said, you know, we were mentioning balance earlier, and you look at things that have been done. And if we go on a sci-fi angle, I've talked about this in other shows, and if you think, right, if we're going to say start colonizing space and we're going out to other planets and we encounter another civilization and we're the more advanced, if it is us, well, if you look at our history on Earth, it doesn't bode too well for how we would say treat someone out there, especially if there's resources on a planet that we think, oh, that would be interesting. We can mine that. Let's have that. So, as you were saying earlier, you know, metal is often can be used to have that, you know, in very artistically and theatrically to comment on those situations. Have you certainly? Jump in, man.
I've never been. Us as a band. I'm not, and we're not anti-religious. We're not anti-God. None of us are religious, but I grew up very religious, as did my whole band. We're not anti-religious. I'm certainly not anti-God. I'm certainly not atheist by any measure, but I'm not religious either. Now,
spiritual.
What our previous album and in the beginning they lied was about is exactly what you're saying. There's a religion as a concept is a man-made thing that controls people. It has absolutely nothing to do with God. The Roman Catholic Church doing what they did for hundreds, thousands of years has nothing to do with God. Those are human decisions. So if you want to believe in any God, go right ahead. That's your thing, you know, and you get to do whatever you want. And I'm very, very fucking cool with that. I'm not going to tell you to believe what I do. And I would expect you wouldn't do the same with me, you know. And that's always been our position. So it's a commentary on an observation, which may or may not be correct.
I'm exactly the same, man. It's each their own. I generally live by this rule. If you're okay with me, I'm okay with you. Regardless of whatever. I had a guy on, he's actually due on the show this coming week with another of his band, Mason. Shout out to Mason, who's in sorry if I get the genre wrong again. I'll be getting all these people on the bucket list. I think it was like, I think it was a symphonic Black and Death band, but they looked at things kind of like from a Christian view and history, and but he was great. He was absolutely great. We were very much like this. We were nerding about movies, different bands, and that's how I am to people. And I said at the time to him, look, if anyone gives me any hate, said, "Oh, are you talking about?" I'm like, so what? It's still metal. It's still a metal band. There's still things we've got in there in common, and like. This show's open to everything, and it's like always that cliche stereotype. If you watch lots of horror movies or you listen to death metal, you're going to be super violent. You want death and destruction. I'm like, no, it's just escapism. It's very it's just it's a heaviness in the music. So have you got have you got some definite rages then coming up on the new album as well? You know,
some definite.
Yeah, some definite rages. Have you got some definite fast rages coming up on your album as well? Yeah.
So if you go back to Lifting the Veil, that one is fast and nasty. I mean, one of my bad days is not slow by any measure, but the one I spoke about, Heretic is like our first really old school, fast, like fucking gravity blast, nasty, and then it just has this breakdown in the middle where it goes chaos, doctrine, industrial, big Dimmu Borgir arrangements. It's fucking insane. And then, we just come right back. So, like I said, we like experimenting. So if you listen to our first album and then our second, you can hear, hey, they didn't do this on their first album. What are they doing? So we want to have the same effect with the third one, where we just push our boundaries creatively, you know? If you listen to Marta was our first song with like proper clean singing, something I had never done except for our Depeche Mode cover. But I mean, that's a cover. It's different, right? Proper clean singing, big, huge arrangements, acoustic pieces in between melodic solos. So we just like pushing our boundaries, but we like to come back to what we think we do best, which is just angry industrial metal, you know?
Yeah. I like that blend you've got, though, of using the thrash and then mix with a bit of death metal and industrial. It kind of gives it that dirty, grimy edge. And even I noticed in some of your live shows when you've dressed as Rasputin as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that must have been fun to do, getting the whole atmosphere, as they say, we go again, have the theatrical element.
Exactly. Need a bit of that.
Yeah. And I was listening to I listened to everything on Bandcamp, man. You've got the 2 different versions of Grigori there. You've got the version in Russian, and then even on for Marta as well. Language is escaping me. Marta.
2 versions of Marta. One has a friend of ours, Laura Ann Kaiser. She's in a band here called Capra Delusion. She just has a great voice. So we figured, hey, if we're doing this, I want a female vocal. So we did both versions, you know. I was actually going to say that earlier. That's how we overcome some of our issues with sounds. If we really get stuck and we're like, no, but we really want heavy guitar there and we want this, then we're like, well, let's do 2 versions of this song.
Yeah.
Let's cheat. Why not? You know? And in this song we have heavy guitars, and in this song we have more of that. So if you go back to our EP, that has like different versions of old songs. So we'll do a EP after this album with also different versions of old songs where we just like to fuck around a little bit and do some different things, you know.
Yeah, well, it stops it being boring, though. Then you don't stagnate. You can experiment. You can use different elements. Think, right, I've always wanted to do this. Take this particular aspect, make a heavy version of it, or just add this effect in. I'm trying to now remember when you Bandcamp the song that I was listening to last night, and it has that. It has this really dark kind of industrial outro to it, and it was the one I was mentioning that made me think of as if I was.
That could be Lifting the Veil, eh?
It's just an outro, but it's very dark, and I love that effect. Very cinematic. I think it was that one actually.
That could describe a number of our songs.
Yeah. Oh, not narrowed it down. One I want to touch on as well. And you did 2 versions of this. Is Black Friday Bedlam. One featuring Jorgen Sandstrom.
The master.
Yeah, and Black Friday Bedlam, man, aka Whack Friday, as some of my hip hop buddies call it, where again we're talking about people being controlled. If you've got like the zombies, the doors open to a supermarket. Oh, I must get one of the crappy TVs. That's not. There's something. I just wondered.
Now,
is it anything to actually do with that, or am I totally off? Because I was looking at the lyrics and I thought.
Now, here's a very, very funny story. When we wrote Black Friday Bedlam, that was with the first configuration of this band. So Alec, who's our guitarist now since 2013, wasn't in the band yet. And our previous guitarist, Hugo in English, Hugo in Afrikaans, he wrote that song. And I was in a band called Bedlam, when my first band, 1994, 5, 6. And the term Black Friday Bedlam just rolls off your tongue, right? Now, at that stage, when we wrote that song, Black Friday was not a thing in South Africa yet. So it has nothing to do with the shopping frenzy that is Black Friday. However, the lyrics and the themes in the song relate directly to that kind of thing. So what Black Friday Bedlam is about is, imagine waking up and going, you know what, fuck it. Today I've had enough. And a guy gets in his car and he drives-bys the whole fucking world. He just kills everybody. So it starts with a shotgun. The end piece goes, when I drive by, people die, which is both the most cheesy and the best lyrics I've ever written in my entire life. How Jurgen got on our Finding drummer Ralph. Ralph is a huge Entombed fan. Like, he worships Entombed like I worship Slayer. And when Entombed was, I think he became friends with Jurgen through writing. And then when Entombed was out here, he became like proper friends with Jurgen. So he wrote to Jurgen, he's like, we've got this song. Will you do vocals for us? And Jurgen was like, fuck yeah, he's keen. So that's how we got Jurgen Sandstrom to be on our song. And we were like, holy shit, his vocals sound so fucking brutal. Like, I don't know how he does it. He opens his mouth and just hate just falls out of it. His vocals are so brutal. So we loved having him on. And we just sort of complimented it with my sort of Slayer-esque thrash vocal. But yeah, the whole song, it's Black Friday-esque, but funnily enough, has really written before Black Friday became a thing in South Africa.
Yeah. I just wondered on that with it, and I love some of the recent takes on Black Friday as well. South Park's episode that did focusing on Black Friday a few years back was absolutely hilarious. And when Black Friday got big here in recent years, I remember I actually went just to witness it. I'm banging just to witness, and it was like watching a bizarre theater, man. And as I say, there was people like having wrestling matches and fighting for like crappy TVs and stuff that was not. I'm gonna fucking kick your head. I was like, man.
Shopping has made Black Friday a whole load better. So one year we bought a load of stuff, but we did it like grown-ups. We were like, okay, I want a new external hard drive, and I need a TV for my studio. It's in front of me right now. So let's watch the prices. And we did, and we got bargains,
Yeah.
You don't just because the consumer market's very clever. They know how to mess with your brain. Just because it says marked down doesn't mean it is.
Yeah. Oh, totally. They know what they're doing, and that's definitely. I mean, you have the follow up as well. You have Black Friday, and then you have Cyber Monday, aka Diaper Monday, as my friend Ross calls it. We've got names for all these things, man. Nothing escapes our wrath, if you like. Even Halloween. I'll upset all the metalers now. Greedoween, as we call it. Greedoween. It's corporate as hell, man. It's penny.
Yeah, Halloween still hasn't made it to South Africa. I don't think it ever will. Well, you can't walk the streets here. You can try trick or treat, but you will probably get stabbed.
I've heard that, especially in Johannesburg as well.
Plus, in Johannesburg, we have all our houses are fenced off. You can't get to my front door. So I'm just eternally miserable, man. Come around our house asking for something for Halloween, with candy and everything like that. So it's not eternal darkness. Curtains are closed. You can ring the doorbell, knock on the door all you want. I'm not going to answer. It's just like that. I've remembered the song as well. What had that kind of cinematic edge? It was "And in the Beginning." It had, and I thought it really had like kind of. It made me feel like Yes. So, "And in the Beginning" and "They Lied" are two songs that I sort of built all by myself. So the intro and the outro of our album. So it's very much aimed at having that sort of Silent Hill feel to it.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I played with sampling from movies like, I don't know if you watched the Chernobyl miniseries that was on Netflix. I got some of my stuff from there, and some of it's from Ancient Aliens. And the whole album concept is this whole big lie that we get fed in society. So that's what those do. The intro and the outro of the album are meant to convey together. But yes, very much. That cinematic thing is we often go for that because it creates a big sound, which really works for what we do as a subgenre of a subgenre,
Yeah, and it stimulates the imagination. What's funny and what's really interesting is you just mentioned Ancient Aliens. When I was reading about a lot of the lyrics and concepts across the board with all of the songs, history of the band, and there was parts that were talking about kind of being fed a lie, humanity lost something, forgotten a bit of its spiritual past, forgotten knowledge, etc.
Yes.
I'm not kidding, man. I was sat there and I'm thinking, because look, I'm a big underground hip hop head as well, and still, well, I co-host another show with Ross, aka VX, who used to be an underground hip hop MC, and there's a genre called spiritual hip hop, which doesn't sound like what people will first think. It kind of focuses on all kind of these themes of forgotten knowledge from the past, spiritual balance. It's still very heavy though. It's still got a hard edge. So when I was, like I said, I'm digressing again. When I was reading about you, and I thought, I wonder if this guy's into ancient aliens, because this is sounding like it from me. So now you said that, I've got to award you 900 million points just for that reason, because
my bass player Phil, who does backing vocals for me, he's the only one who like takes interest in my lyrics, really. So Phil and I are both into that. I want to try and show you a tattoo. I don't think that's going to work. No, that's not going to work. I've got an Anunnaki. There's, when you go to the museum, what is it called? The British Museum. There's those, they call it, what were the post-Persians? They've got the fucking Anunnaki in there, man. So when I was there last year, I took pictures of me with it. I was like, yay, finally found them. So I've got one of them on my shin. I wasn't gonna, my leg is just not gonna work on the camera. Anyway, so short story long, full on into it. Blood Serpent God, our song we did with Anna Hell. Blood Serpent God is full on ancient aliens, but with the South American twist. So it's about human sacrifice, but it's got that Quetzalcoatl Kukulkan vibe to it. And that's what Blood Serpent God is all about. Yeah. They came from the skies with bloodlust on their minds,
Yeah, and it's what is interesting as well, and I give him a shout out to Jorg from the band Estador, who are from Colombia, and he does a lot of his music on pre-Columbian culture themes. Awesome. Oh man, yeah, he was an awesome guest. Hopefully, I know he told me his next single is due out literally on Halloween, and he'd be interested in coming back on to talk about that. So hopefully I can have that arranged. But yeah, and he has like in one of his videos, he's dressed kind of like as an ancient shaman. Really nice guy. Really interesting music.
I tell my band members and my girlfriend, I'm very jealous of people that have that kind of culture. Now, whether you are Italian and you go back to Roman times, or Greek, or Russian, or South American, there's so much cultural richness.
There is, isn't there?
The pyramids in your back garden, man.
Yeah.
Like us as fourth generation fucking colonialist immigrants, I've got fuck all to write about that anyone would care about in post-apartheid South Africa. Nobody wants to hear about my culture. So I'm just jealous just for lyrical themes, There's so much cool stuff you can do with that.
Well, it's so rich, and if we look at ancient history, especially those themes, I just think there is so much potential there to meld it with extreme music, which some bands now are starting to do. I've been and going in a totally other area where I'm going to nerd. There's a band I've been talking to in the background. I've got to give them a shout out because I think the guy's just making fantastic music. They're called Blackstaff from Washington on the West Coast in the States. And all of his music's like black and sludge, but it's all themed around Dungeons and Dragons. And it's more on the horror side, and it's really got that nasty edge to it. It's grimy. It just makes you feel like you're literally in a dungeon and something is chasing you, or you've got like a mind flayer's got your hostage. And I love in it when extreme music takes in. Look, I'm not bashing bands here. I think you know where I'm going with this. I want to do something different. Take different themes instead of the usual. There's something about it, man.
I was joking with an Indian friend of mine who's also big in the metal scene, and I was saying, if you're a Hindu, you're sorted for lyrics for life, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you cannot write enough songs to cover the Bhagavad Gita and stuff like that. You can't. There's too much history to. You'll never have enough time to make albums about all of that, you know. So just to latch on to that.
Yeah.
No, I also just something. That's why, like I said earlier, I wanted to do a song's called Heretic, which you may think, oh yeah, death metal heretic. This is about the heretic pharaoh. It's about Akhenaten. It is different. I wanted to do something different, but we still do all the classic genocide, murder, death, kill, because this is metal, you know.
Yeah. There's I mean, what's the band from Egypt? Scarab. Death metal band. Don't quite know if they're still active, but they have you know, they look back at the culture as well. I mean, Niall's obviously
cool. They're called Scarab. Example. I would hope so.
Yeah,
I've got
definitely.
Some Scarab tattoos somewhere.
Yeah, and there's another death metal band. These are American as well, and I can't remember the name, but they look at I mean, this is just a win for me. They look at samurai culture and the Oni demons as well. And they had a new album out about 1 year or two ago. Possibly, I think maybe got the promo from Imperative PR. So shout out to Paul and Chris. And dude, I was just sold. I'm like, yeah, man, this is awesome. I mean, hell, samurai, extreme metal. Yeah.
That is cool. That is cool. Anything goes.
Yeah,
totally. Flowers in your hair and
yeah. There's probably somebody who's done it.
Ozzy said so.
Yeah, dude, I came across a grindcore band called Karen recently, and the whole album. I mean, some of the songs are like only 30 seconds long and stuff like it's called grindcore, you know. And the whole album is just like about a Karen literally complaining about whatever and everything and asking for a manager all the time. It's absolutely hilarious, man. And it'll be like, they've even used samples where you'll have someone complaining, and at the end you'll have the extreme vocals, shut the fuck up. I'll send you after the show. It's some of the funniest stuff I've heard. Anyway, I'm going to behave myself and turn this back to your music just for a little while. How did the show go? Did you promote your music?
It's my favorite thing since I'm the vocalist. I don't get to play guitar and shit. I only get to write lyrics.
Yeah. Is that something you've always been interested in then, Dan? The ancient astronaut theme and I kind of, I guess, the insomnia with lost knowledge, I guess.
I won't say always. I'll say in my recent past. I can't tell you when I started watching Ancient Aliens. And just a disclaimer, I'm bought into the concept, but not everything they say on the show, because they've Hollywoodized the concept. So they took something. I'm bought into Anunnaki. I'm bought into all of that, but then they just, you know, in South Africa, we've got this expression to do with the chicken's asshole. You know, they just rip out the chicken. They Hollywoodized it. So they start saying maybe Bigfoot is a alien and maybe Loch Ness is a fucking alien. Now everybody's a fucking alien. Whatever. So I think, like, everybody wonders where people came from. Where does humanity come from? And when you're religious, it's a very easy answer. When you're not, and you're naturally ponderous, like I have been my whole life, it's an interesting concept to explore. And until I hear a better theory, that's the one that I don't want to say believe, but that's the one I'm bought into at the moment. You know, I also like Graham Hancock. I don't know if you've seen Graham Hancock's Ancient Civilization, where in his theory, there were people around. The Ice Age happened. And after the Ice Age, those ancient people were still around, and they were already an advanced civilization, and they taught us. And that's where my pissiness with the Catholic Church comes in. They suppressed a lot of knowledge to protect their own power and their own gospels. We always say in the Vatican secret libraries, you'll learn the real truth about where people are from and whether I'm right or not.
You actually just said what I was thinking there with the Vatican. I said if anyone could have access to those vaults in the Vatican, the knowledge that was there, maybe even got stuff from the Great Library that was burnt down we don't know. I have seen Ancient Apocalypse from Graham Hancock, which was really interesting. I think it was the number
brilliant.
2 show on Netflix actually for a while, and it's a documentary.
I love Graham Hancock.
Yeah, and that guy's been shot down a lot from when he's gone to these ancient sites around the world. And all that guy wants to do is find out and say, look, who was here? I'm just trying to establish who was here, who, what, where, and when, who built this, because we've got structures, monuments, exactly, all over the world. The underground complex off the coast of Japan, you name it, you can go everywhere.
Yeah.
And that predates known history. And I'm going to go on a conspiracy theory rant here. It's just, look, somebody built this. This is from somewhere, and this is all this guy is trying to do.
And why don't we know who and why and for what? Why don't we know that? Surely somebody had to know that at some point.
Yeah. And what is wrong, as you said, what is wrong? What is wrong with asking those questions and finding out, saying, look, because it's our history.
The answers could potentially impact the monopoly that the Roman Catholic Church holds.
Yes.
In my mind, it's as simple as that. Why do you lie to people? Because you want them to keep following you. It's pretty simple. It's not a conspiracy. We know this to be a fact about the Catholic Church, right? So, and I'm not saying for a fact they have things about ancient aliens in the Vatican library. I'm not saying that. But we know that the Catholic Church have done a whole load of somewhat dodgy things in its 2,000 years of history.
Yeah, and what gives me credence with mystery, I mean, this is something I'm interested in anyway, even with mysterious creatures as well, is when you look at people who've been in the military, ex or current serving, the same with the police or whatever, and these are people who are trained professionals. It's not someone who's going out there randomly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're trained in a professional manner to observe, witness what they are, and some of the things that they're seeing, and again, with technology now, there's footage is getting out there, and it's like, look, whether it's from out in space, far below the ocean, or whatever, there's something there. There's something mysterious. There's something that's saying, well, hey, what is this? And again, just to reestablish, Dan isn't attacking.
Nobody.
I just have to put that out there with in case somebody gets the wrong idea. That's all. And the same with I'll put this disclaimer. The same with death metal as well. It's it's a form of art, folks. If you follow the channel, people should know this now. And the range of guests on here can go from one extreme to the other as well.
I think by now, anyone who would have gotten offended is dialed off anyway.
Now
you can say what we really think.
Yeah, probably got offended just with my long tangents. This guy never should.
Yeah, and of course I'm smoking way too much on camera.
Don't worry,
I said at least 8 times already.
Yeah. Don't worry, 2 of my best friends are hip hop heads, like the ones one of them I was talking about who are co-hosts with. So I'm so used to it, man.
I know these are cigarettes, dude. It's not weed. Right. I don't smoke weed. I don't like it. I don't like that. I'm one of those people. I don't like being relaxed. I'm very bad at it. These are cigarettes. I'm a chain smoker.
So some of the other songs that I was listening to as well, I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of a fast free flow here about them. When I was listening to The Right, that even has a little sludgy element there.
Oh, yes. That was the whole intent. So every now and then, we engineer something. And what I mean with engineer is, it's not a natural creative process where somebody plays and they come up with a riff. Every now and then I say to the guys, dudes, I want a song that is X. Yeah. And The Right was one of those. When we wrote The Right, I had just gotten into the band Clutch, like big time. I still love them. And I was like, guys, wouldn't it be fun to do something that has like a Southern rock kind of vibe to it, like not Black Label Society. That's way too technical. I wanted something that's got like now it kind of sounds like Black Sabbath, but that was never the intent. I wanted that like proper Mississippi bluesy cousin fucker kind of vibe to it. And then when we penned the riffs, I was like, well, there's only one kind of style of lyrics that I want on top of this. I want to go to the crossroads, sell your soul to the devil. But because this is metal, the lyrics have a twist where now that you've sold your soul, now you have to pay your penance while you're here. And the dude has to kill for, get the souls to the devil kind of shit. So that's what that is all about.
Yeah.
And I'm not by any means.
Yeah.
I don't believe the devil exists, but it's still fun to write about him.
Well, like you said, it's theater. It's art. It's it's horror.
So very sludgy. But we play it live. The right is a fixed part of our set because I just love playing that song. But the end part is like proper, like industrial. It's like Fear Factory, and that's what I wanted. I wanted this like sludgy groove, and then it's like, oh, just in case you forgot, this is actually our style of music, and that's how the song ends. Then blended.
Yeah. It even reminds me a little of, the Nail Bomb album Max did.
Yes.
Even a bit of that.
Fudge. There was Sepultura and Max and the dude from Fudge Tunnel, right?
Yeah. It's got that
Point Blank
vibe.
was the album. That kind of vibes.
Yeah, for sure. And interesting reference there as well to Robert Johnson, the blues guy, Still a Soul at the Crossroads. Did
you hear we actually stole, there's little bits of Robert Johnson's song in the right. So I snipped a little piece. You'll hear a little voice go, me and the devil walking side by side. That's Robert Johnson's actual voice.
Right. Whoa.
So I'm still waiting to get sued.
Yeah. Folks, shout out. If you don't know that story, it's super interesting. Definitely look that up. Robert Johnson, The Crossroads.
Best story ever.
It is. It's a fascinating one for sure.
Yeah.
And we were talking about some of the themes we've just been mentioning with kind of keeping things hidden. I noticed on They Lied, and I was listening to that, and I thought, this is my mind. I do this with everything, man. I look at the Easter eggs, I look beneath the layers, and I thought, there's sort of possible Illuminati references here.
Illuminati.
Yeah, with They Lied.
It weaves, it weaves. I won't say Illuminati specifically, but that kind of thing, yes. Like somebody who's not feeding the masses the truth, So again, I keep picking on the Roman Catholic Church, but that's not my intent. It's just an easy target. There's people. Yeah, the Catholic Church is an easy target, and I don't mean all the pedophilia. I mean the kind of stuff we've been talking about. I think they're. I don't know if it's like the Rothschilds or the Illuminati, but I always say to my friends, like, if I'm super rich and you're super rich, and you're in England and I'm in South Africa, and like I've got operations, and you're my buddy, right? And I've got operations in England, and now I have problems with the labor union or whatever. And I know you know somebody there. I'm going to phone you and go, bro, help me. Because that's what friends do for each other. Now, if you take that concept and you blow it up into 10 people or 20 people and 50 people, and all of those people happen to be mega billionaires, then the Illuminati is not a difficult concept to understand or believe in. If it's a lot of rich people taking care of their own interests, not that hard to believe, because we would do it. If it's you and me, like right now, if I need a plumber, I'm going to phone my plumber friend and go, bro, my toilet's blocked. Same thing. Grand scale money.
Even to put this terms on it, and people think, oh, it's another excuse to shout out past guests, and people know. But in this example, right, I did the interview with Brett and Minnie, originally from South Africa, and I was asking them about the scene in South Africa, some bands, which I'm going to do with yourself. And during the show, Brett said, you probably like Chaos Doctrine. Afterwards, hooked us up together, blah, blah, blah. He probably said, you're right, Gaz, you want an interview, come on his show. Gaz, here's someone from South Africa who talked about the scene there. I did originally, as we'll get, we might as well just go into it now and come back to music. Whatever, we'll do it. I did reach out to Des from Devil Speak. And sadly, they must, well, as I've found out from yourself, they dropped off the scene. And I was going to actually ask Des before Brett connected us to come back on the show, give me an update on what he's doing with the band, and chat about what's happening with the latest with the South African scene. Unfortunately, as I know from yourself now, they've dropped off altogether, which is pretty sad, because it was a fun show I did with Des way back in the day. Des and Gaz. People getting the nicknames mixed up. They really did. They were like, which one's Gaz? Which one's Des? And I'm like, dude, listen to the accents.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But there's an example of like the process you describe of literally how that happened, and it's not too much of a stretch. Look, I'm not pushing an agenda here. I'm not saying I'm a
Exactly.
full-blown conspiracy theorist.
No.
I'm just saying I take an interest in things.
Yeah.
I look at the lyrics. I look at the same. I do the same in movies. I look at the Easter eggs. I look beneath the layers, and then I think, oh, I wonder if this is to do with this that I've either watched on TV or read about, because I obviously find things interesting. So I like to educate myself in that regard. And yeah, and then
with
go on,
any
man,
conspiracy theory, all you have to ask yourself is, what level of ridiculous does this sound like? And if it sounds too ridiculous, then I guess it's unlikely. But if it sounds like, this could happen, then maybe it did, But I mean, like I said, I'm not bought into like JFK. Who knows who the fuck killed him? Somebody knows. We don't.
Yeah.
But is it really that hard to think, well, he wanted something and as the president of America, blah, 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 some other oaks didn't like it, so they got somebody to kill him? No, it's not that hard to believe. I don't know what it is and who, but not that hard to believe, right? And I mean, silly example, but you could apply that to anything.
So would you go along on comedy warning here? Would you go along with the fact then that maybe Mickey Mouse is an intent on killing the movie industry?
Maybe
Disney?
Maybe.
Yeah, there's one.
With Disney, anything is possible. I mean, he might actually be a head in a jar, like in Futurama. We don't know.
yeah. New season of Futurama coming soon as well. Can't wait for that.
Oh, I haven't watched that in forever. I love that shit.
Oh, it's hilarious. The robot Fender is just.
Oh yeah, Bender. Bender
on a bender. Oh man, awesome. So going back to your own music for a while, my bad. We'll come on to the South African scene as well later. So I noticed there was now my mind goes blank with this all the nerd. You definitely do a lot of the covers to freshen up as well. There's a cover of South to Heaven, Ace of Spades, Refuse Resist from Sepultura, and posted an image of you all collabing together on that one as well, which is pretty cool. So is that something you like to do every now and then, Dan? Just do it for the fun's sake, just to throw in some covers?
Yeah, every one of our covers have a little bit of a backstory. I think covers are really hard to choose because everyone in the band has an opinion, and Chaos Doctrine is not an autocracy, so I don't decide what we do. We're not a democracy either. We don't vote. We're like it's called decision by consensus. Every band member has to like it or it doesn't happen, because our theory is, if there's one dude that doesn't like it, we're going to play it live. Eventually he's going to fucking hate it and he's not going to want to do it. So when it comes to a cover, all four of us have to be happy, all five, however many people are in the band at that time. We're four now, but we used to be five in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to choose covers. So Refuse Resist was a lucky one, because all of us just loved Sepultura and we industrialized it just enough, make it sound like us. We actually made it faster, I think by about 10 BPM, just to give it a more thrashy, less groovy feel. We love it. It's still part of our live set. It won't be much longer, but still part of our live set. Ace of Spades, we made slower. So the original is about 150, 145. We made it a little bit slower just to give it a bit more of a death metal vibe to it. Really enjoyed it, but we stopped playing that live ages ago. I think my friends who are diehard Motorhead fans, they were like, what the fuck did you do to the song? And if you want to know why, go listen to it, you'll hear it. I quite liked it. We gave it like an industrial gambling addiction kind of vibe, Then we did two during COVID, which was we did Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode, and that was sort of a fluke. We're like, hey, let's do a cover nobody would ever think we're going to do. Let's do Depeche Mode. Which Depeche Mode? Enjoy the Silence. Okay, let's do it. And then while we were busy with that, we were like, hey, let's do Midnight Oil's Beds Are Burning. And Beds Are Burning has quite a lot of meaning in South Africa because it was an anti-apartheid album. That album was banned because it was anti-apartheid. So when we grew up in the 80s and the 90s, the song was banned. So it had like a lot of it's got a lot of history for us down here, and that's
Yeah.
why we figured out that'd be fun. But
Yeah.
now at the moment we're working on a different cover project altogether. We're doing a bit of something interesting when it's done.
Oh,
To share it.
curious, man. But yeah, what I like is
Oh, and South of Heaven, because like I said 20 times, I'm a huge Slayer fan.
Well, it's a classic song. It really is. And you've got that again, as we've been discussing all these different influences and different vibes with the songs. You've got like FGG, Good Industrial, Death Thrash. I know that's one of the early ones from 2017. Cult, very industrial, thrashy riff near the end. Tempo,
but also a bit gothy.
Groove.
And Cult has like a goth feel to it as well, with the big symphonics and stuff. Yeah.
And goth is always awesome for the atmosphere as well.
Like Paradise Lost goth.
Draconian Times, definitely. Yeah. And Martyr's got that groove edge to it for sure. So as you probably gathered when I was going through all these songs, I was like, man, you've got, as we've been saying, you've got the rages there, got the more industrial based ones. You've even got ones with groove that might be a little bit slow, but still have got the intensity there as well. I thought there's everything here, and it would certainly make for, and I'm no ego stroking here, it would certainly make for an interesting show, not only to watch but to play live, and especially say if you're dressed as Rasputin, the Mad Monk live, you can really fit into the character and put this theatrical performance on, because like, oh, here's an heavy insane song, this is when Rasputin was more insane this day, and go then here's a slower journey through madness, if you like, with a lot of industrial focused one. So that is incredibly interesting. And I read as well, Dan, that you did a show, and this is something I wanted to ask you about. It was your first ever in-person Metal for Africa event on the 29th of July. That must have been special, man.
Oh, it was really cool, dude. It was in Cape Town. So if you don't know anything about South Africa, we're in Johannesburg, which up north. Cape Town is about 1,200 km southwest from here. And Alec, our guitarist, is originally from Cape Town, and I lived in Cape Town for a while. So we've been wanting to go down there forever, and we were all set to actually go play with Devil Speak. And then COVID happened. And then we did an online version of it in 2021, I think, with Metal for Africa. And then this time around, they were like, guys, do you want to come co-headline this thing? And we're like, fuck yeah, we're in. So we loved it. It was our first show in Cape Town. We'd love to go back. It was just a shitload of fun,
Yeah. And what happened with Devil Speak? Yeah, what happened with Devil Speak, man? Did they just decide to call it a day?
I don't know all the ins and outs. I think the guys were just like, I don't know if it was COVID, then had the nail, or if it was just the guys just saying, you know what, enough.
Yeah.
It happens in South Africa for different reasons, but I think when you're in a band, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere, not just, I think it's the same in England and the States. You're logging gear, you're getting paid shit, you're getting treated like crap, you're having bad on-stage sound. It costs you a lot of money to be in a band. And then, one day your passion just sort of dies. I'm 45, it hasn't yet, so I'm hoping it doesn't, But we do what we want to. We don't give a shit what people think, which is nice. At this old ripe age of 45, we've reached that point where, like, if the four of us are happy, our music's good enough,
Yeah, you've got to go, as long as you enjoy what you're doing in life, whatever it is, and you're exploring that passion, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, you need something to do on a Saturday and keep you sane, Grown-up life can be hard some days. You need to let off steam somewhere.
Yeah, some escapism.
That's it.
I remember when I talked with Des Oman way back, and this was just when Vulvadinia we're getting more known over here and generally everywhere. And I'm sure, if I remember, I don't know if this band are active, and they're not South African, but I'm sure it was a Swedish crust punk band. Was it God something? And I think they did a tour in South Africa just round about that time. And this is probably going back, 2010, 2012, something like that. So I just wondered, man, if if you could, for both for myself and the people out there, if you could tell us a little bit about some of the current upcoming bands in South Africa, both across death metal, thrash, sludge, punk, hardcore, and grindcore as well. Got to get that in there. You know, I've got to get that in there, man. So who would be something to look out for at the moment?
Wow. Okay, let me rack
Put
my
you on the
head.
spot.
So I think the South African scene is quite interesting because there's the like slightly older guys playing slightly more old school kind of stuff. So we're sort of, I would say, from Joburg at least, the only sort of industrial metal outfit, but you got old school, more old school death metal bands like Nerve Zero. The only punky band that I've seen here that's proper old school and not like pop bubblegum is a band called Slit. So they kind of like that, that Slayer cover album, Undisputed Attitude.
Oh yes, yeah, with all the with the manufacturer, I think.
And we were like, holy shit, they kind of sound like that, not with the Slayer vocal or anything, but that kind of punk, if that makes sense. So that kind of dirty, the kind of punk you like, I'm sure, not Sum 41 and Blink 182 or Green Day. And I'm just like laughing because that's pop music to me. We got a great band, friends of ours, called State Dependency, that does like a more groovy kind of thing, kind of like sort of like South African Pantera, but not like Pantera, but that kind of more groove vibe. I mentioned Capgras Delusion earlier, female vocal, and she's just brutal. She can sing, she can growl, she can scream.
Oh, nice.
Really, really good band. Got some thrash from a city called Port Elizabeth, a band called Halvar. They play sort of your creator kind of thrash metal. And then there's just, dude, there's a shitload of great bands in Cape Town too. Like, for example, Terror Rays is a band we met down there. And they do more of an old school, almost Cannibal Corpsey kind of grindy death metal vibe. And they're fantastic. Chick vocal as well. And she's just, nice. Jo Maria's her name. She's just so fucking vicious. So there's some footage of us doing Refuse to Resist with us. So not by my knowledge, a lot of grindcore proper or punk going on in South Africa that I know of. I may have missed a whole load of them. Because I don't go out that often just because of, being old and having grown up bullshit to deal with. But bands I've seen, mostly metal. And then obviously the more core, and what I mean with core is the newer metal bands, that has more of that sort of metal core feel to it.
Yeah.
Good couple of those. The younger dudes doing the more sort of, that kind of post Slipknot kind of stuff,
Any other cool deathcore, brutal death, slam bands?
Other than Volvadinia, we're playing with Displeased Disfigurement Suit, so they do, as far as I remember, that kind of slammy kind of vibe. And there's another one. Oh my god. Like, I know these guys, and I've played with them fucking 20 times, and now suddenly I don't.
I do it all the time. I always forget my own questions.
Oh, I hate that. They also do that. That genre is very hard for me to understand because I grew up on Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi, and Ozzy Osbourne, and I only got heavier in my old age. So that genre for me is just like, holy fuck, what is happening? Like, I don't do grind. I do very little death metal selectively. I prefer Swedish death metal to American death metal. So where I'm going is there's nothing wrong with that slam scene. I just don't fucking understand it.
It's all right. People say it to me.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah. It's like there's too much glam in my brain,
It's the heaviness of it. I mean, I like a lot of music, folks, so let me just get out of there. I do like other music outside but my favorites in extreme.
It's a chaos.
Yeah.
I think it's a chaos. Even if you take, there's an Italian band called Flesh God Apocalypse.
Yes, know them. Yeah.
Those guys are, musically, they are gods. Their musicianship is, we saw them live, and I was like, Jesus Christ, look at these guys play. But watching them was like mind-blowing, but I cannot listen to it because it's just too heavy for me. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Phil, our bassist, calls it chaotic death metal because it doesn't have the kind of predictability old school that I like in my music, just because I grew up fucking old school as hell, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple.
When I used to do my radio shows, man, I guess they were kind of like an audio migraine for some folks because people sometimes they'll get a lot of, how can you listen to this stuff, say, you know, you really rock around.
Yeah.
It's something that you either get or you don't, and it's just
Yeah.
the sheer rawness and intensity and ferocity. I was absolutely relentless, and it gets me so hyper. And then with Brutal Death and Slam, it's the heaviness. I love the heaviness. The moshing parts, the stomping breakdowns, it's just so pit-driven. It makes me want to run around in circles, fall on the floor, and play tennis with walls. All that stuff. It's awesome. Deathcore has
That's what makes metal so fucking great.
The
genre that is metal. Yeah. You start with Sabbath, and you work your way through Judas Priest, through Wasp and Motley Crue, to the heaviest, most extreme shit from Norway and Sweden and Slam. And in between there, you've got a million bands and a million sounds. It's like in 2010, I was in Canada and I got to see Slayer, Megadeth, and Testament.
Oh,
and I took
Testament.
I took a friend with me who's not a metalhead at all. I mean, like, she's listened to some Led Zeppelin before that day, you know?
Yeah.
And Megadeth, she was like, you know, it's pretty because Rust in Peace, they played Rust in Peace back to back. And Megadeth's Rust in Peace is a beautiful album. The notes are clean. The solos are fantastic. And then Slayer came on and she was like, no. She was like, she had her fingers in her ears. And that's kind of what it's like. You know, I guess the leap from Megadeth to Slayer, if you take that leap some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has a heaviness line that they don't cross, I guess.
Yeah, it's all different forms. I remember so I used to DJ on, it was on Brutal Existence Radio, and we'd get the and this, I'm not being arrogant at Rockstar here, we'd get the standard death metal shows, and then I'd come on where I'd play Brutal Death, Slam, straight up death metal, and the Swedish sound as well. The Swedish sound is great, fast, thrashy. Even some of it's got the Death Doom kind of vibes, crossover. I love the atmosphere, very, very horror vibed as well. So used to play that, and perfect to crossover with punk and crust punk. Yeah. That with hardcore, grind violence, power violence, beat down hardcore. Get your aim going, noise and fast, intense stuff. And then the rest songs was the sludge, which was still insanely heavy, but obviously slow, but still very a lot of it unclean vocals, nasty sewerage kind of drenched tunes, I guess. And it was funny, some of the standard death metal guys, Townsend, those shows are absolutely insane. It's just non-stop. I feel like my head is being bashed in for 3 hours non-stop. I used to do 5-hour shows sometimes, and it's just relentless pummeling. And we think it's heavy what I'm listening to, and I'd be like, I'd play a couple of Slam songs, and I'd be like, okay, that's the warm-up done. We've got past the Slam, now we're going to get into a mass grindcore set, and I'd hit them with grindcore sometimes for 2 hours before I get the other one. Absolute audio assault. People used to be saying, man, I feel like I've been stood in front of a flamethrower or something. But it's the hyperness of it, man. But that doesn't mean, and I have to put this out there, that I don't like other music. Yes, those are my favorites. I enjoy chatting about it anyway. That's why this show is open to anyone and everything. Even music I don't like, I still enjoy hearing about how people create the art, what goes behind it, the themes. I find that stuff interesting. I always have. So that's why it's like, hey, come on, someone said, do you have to like a music? I'm like, no, of course not. Hey, bonus, doesn't matter to me. I still want to talk to you. I've got so far off on the nerd tangent. There was a point to this related to what you've said.
You were on some kind of very heavy metal tangent.
Yeah.
You were asking about the scene and stuff.
Yeah, Africa, I was. And we're metal for Africa. And the other thing I wanted to relate back to, and I tried to find this in some research I was doing. Brett told me about that. I think it was the Botswana Metalheads, that documentary, which I've yet to watch from a few recent years ago, and wasn't the and I'm wondering if it's you actually, Dan. I'm sure there was a dude that put out a book or 2 books all about the South African metal scene.
No. That wasn't
me. I forget the name now. I forget the name.
But you know the dude who did Banger, that A Headbanger's Journey. I forgot his name. The Canadian oak. He made the movie and he made all those VH1 shows. I forget his name. Sam Dunn.
Yeah.
He was, yeah, they did sort of third world metal kind of vibes too. And he's been in South America and he was here. And yeah, but yeah, I haven't seen that. I don't know where that is, but yeah, some oaks met him and blah, blah, blah. I wasn't one of those. Yeah, but no, that wasn't me. I haven't written books about the sea.
Right. Okay. All right. And then I got
I don't
you
know who
mixed.
that was though. I wouldn't mind seeing those.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm
Maybe
quickly
I'm a
doing it.
footnote, but I doubt
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do. Yeah, I'm trying to do a quick Google in the background on it. I remember seeing it on Amazon as well. I do remember it.
Holy shit.
And
I've been in the South African scene since '96, and Alec has been in the scene since about '94, '93. So at that time, the early '90s, it was sort of like in its rebellious phase. And what I mean with that is our government was still quite hectic, still very conservative. So those were sort of the, what do we call them? The pioneers, the bands that came directly before us.
Yeah.
The guys were still beaten up by cops and shit like that,
That's why, man, I find it interesting as well. We've got bands at the moment getting more prominence who are coming out of China. And you think, across both punk and extreme metal, and then other parts of the world as well, in these places where it's very difficult to make that kind of music
like
with a political situation. Yeah, well, I had a guest on from Iran. Yeah, I was tiptoeing around that, as you probably worked out. But yeah, I think, man, to make that kind kind here in that place is something else for sure.
Sam Dunn did an episode or like a movie where he was in some of those. I think he was in Iran. He was in China. They were standing on the Great Wall talking to guys about like how hard it's been and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And what's cool is if wherever you go on the planet, even the remote places like Nepal, for example, there's metal. Yeah, there's somebody who makes some kind of metal, whether it's the heaviest stuff, the lightest stuff. There will be some form of metal there, and it's always cool when you meet someone like that. So what bands you're in, and even if you're in, say, opposite ends of that scene, it's amazing how you can still find a common connection. Oh, well, I like this band like this. Oh, yeah, well, I like that band too.
Yeah.
Oh, this album was good. There's always a common ground that you can find. That's awesome,
I think Black Sabbath, at least for us older metalheads, I have met people who haven't heard Black Sabbath, and that was very alarming for me. I was like, oh, the fuck. But anyway, maybe they're into Opeth, for example.
Opeth, yeah.
I don't get Opeth listen to Black Sabbath, or like into Chimera and not into Pantera, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there's always some kind of common ground to battle your way back to, And I guess, it also depends just how open-minded you are. You don't have to, like all the stuff you mentioned, I don't listen to any of that shit. Doesn't matter. Fucking no. Yeah. Why would it matter?
Exactly. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Wait, you're not coming on the show again because you don't like my nasty grind. Go on. Oh man, that stuff's ridiculous when it falls into the kind of elitist categories as well. And although I can't be friends with this person because that stuff's just dumb, man. It's just stupid.
Exactly.
Absolute stupidness. Exactly. So, coming back to your band for a moment or two. Yes, we will actually talk about Chaos Doctrine for once. Doctrine. That's just two random dudes chatting about metal. Not there's anything wrong with that. Man. Oh man, I'll try and
politics and aliens.
Yeah. The frightening thing is
not dissing the Catholic Church, even though it sounds like I am.
Yeah, get that disclaimer out there again. Do you have any upcoming shows, man? I was looking on your Facebook.
We've got one more.
Well. Right. Let's plug it, man. Let's get it out there.
Yeah, we've got one on the 17th of November, close to us in Randburg. There's a French old school black metal band called
Manzer.
Yes.
Yes.
They're hitting this way. What do they call it? Pictavian black metal. I don't get black metal. So for me, black metal is the only black metal I like is Dimmu Borgir and a bit of Marduk. So anyone who likes black metal, forgive me. I'm sorry. So they're on their way out here. So we're going to jam with them. That should be interesting. Last year, we played with a band from Switzerland called Grafpel. And it was fucking great. You know, just like people from, I want to say random. For us, it's random countries because they're not English speaking. So we don't know bands that don't, you know, they don't come from the States or England or the big Swedish scene. Yeah. So it's always interesting to meet metalheads from non-English speaking countries because their cultures are very different. For us in South Africa, the English culture isn't funny because we were a colony. The American culture isn't funny because we see it on TV every day. When you meet French people and Swiss people and Swedish people, their culture is very fucking different, you know, 2 hours down here. Yeah. So it's always interesting for us.
Yeah. And it is. And seeing their interpretation of metal, what they come up with.
It's like watching a French horror movie or a fucking Korean horror movie. Just because their culture is different to ours, they see things differently, and the angle of the camera is different, and the lighting is different, and the way the story unfolds is different to what Hollywood would have done with it, which is the same kind of thing. Like in this song, I would have done that, but they don't even go close to that. They go that away just because they see things differently. And I mean, culture influences how we think, right? So it's just super interesting to me.
It shapes our experiences for sure. Who we interact with. I'm with you on black metal as well, and I'm going to upset. Well, not to upset one of our former guests who were a black metal band who are really good folks. It's one of those.
Against it. I don't get the heavy black metal. I like my black metal produced. I like to hear the snare drum and the kick drum and the guitar and the bass, you know.
The closest I get to it, and people are going to think, oh, well, this is quite a lot here, but black and thrash, some black and death, black and sludge, black and punk styles, and I realise I'm rattling off now about like 10 million genres, so people are like
I'm not
quite
always
a bit of it.
Sure what blackened means. I'm assuming it's just some black metal influence, sort of like our Behemoth is blackened death metal, right? So usually, I guess we're blackened, industrialized thrash death. Because we have a little bit of those symphonics that bands like Demu play with, unless that doesn't make them black metal. I don't know. Well, metal is very confusing.
There used to be a Swedish D-beat band called right, 2 minutes. I will now I've just brain fart live on
remember that other band's name I was gonna tell you. Anyway.
It was pretty much like some of the black and D-beat styles. Essentially, just a black metal singer. That was it. 365 Dagger I've sinned. Now I remember. And it's just pretty much like basically a black metal vocalist on a D-beat band, or they'll sometimes use a bit of those black metal influences with raw punk. They'll fuse it with that. But it's something I do find. Even though I'm not the biggest fan, the cosmic black metal interesting because they're going for more the sci-fi and sci-fi horror themes, which is different. Because I must admit, I do get a bit bored sometimes with we're just going to bash somebody's faith all the time. I'm like, look, dude, you know, grow up, man. That stuff gets a bit boring. I'm like, you know, you're looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I do enjoy genres getting mixed up a little bit, you know.
Yeah, even like the blending.
I mean, we try and do that a lot. I mean, if I say we're thrash, when the band was formed before Alec, it was very much sort of old schooly thrash, you know, Slayer, Testament. But Alec himself, even though he's a thrash and he's the primary songwriter now, even though he likes thrash, his favorite band is Meshuggah. You know, so that brings, and his style is much more, I call it genty, you know, his style is much more like that kind of stuff, which took the thrash that we play in a completely different direction to your old school sort of Bay Area scene, you know, so that's very cool. And I love that fusing of genres and of ideas. So if you do it well, please keep going, you know, whatever it is, you're blending.
Anything different. I've even heard like some black metal bands were saying doing more like the ancient culture themes, and that's awesome, especially some South American bands as well. And that's great because it's something different. I'm like, man, this is cool. This is kind of a different interpretation and take on that scene. which is cool. So I still, although it's not my favorite genre, I still keep an open mind to it. And I'm not saying, hey, I wouldn't talk to anybody who makes that music or etc. etc. You know, I'm not like that. And of it, as we said, it's each to their own. And I just wondered as well, Dan, is the scene down there in South Africa, and you know now it's getting more known as well outside for the rest of the world. Is it getting quite vibrant now? Is a sense of, and where I'm going with this, and I think I talked with Brett and Minnie about this, and they did.
Yeah.
I've heard before, and even I still hear about this from some people who are in Perth in Australia, where their scene will be kind of everyone's thrown together. You could have an underground hip hop guy, blues, extreme metal, because there's not kind of a dominant scene for that one particular genre. Everyone's thrown together. So is South Africa now, is the scene becoming much more of a larger scene, or is there still some bits where everyone is a bit mixed together?
I think we call those crossover shows, right? And I love them. I think they're cool. Like one of my favorite shows we played, Short Story Long. We played with sort of like a punky band and like a glam Motley Crue kind of band and like a Iron Maiden kind of band, and then us. I love those kind of shows because different fans get to see different things. And you get to meet new people, you know. But I think for the most part, our metal scene is very tiny. And I think most of our shows are still, I don't want to say genre bound, because it would be us and a band that's very deathy and a band that's very thrashy and a band that's very metalcore, but all like more extreme metal than, you know, you're unlikely to see a sort of sludgy kind of band playing with the fast bands. You know, it's unlikely to happen, which is kind of shit. But it's also, I guess, it also depends on what bands are in our actual genre. You know, the more rock alternative stuff in the metal very rarely crosses paths, you know. Which again, the only time that happens is when there's a festival and we have different stages.
Yeah.
You know, which is weird.
Yeah.
And unfortunate.
Yeah, it is, and it's a shame because that would then expose people to new sounds, to different styles as well. And also, as someone who plays, someone who plays in a band, you might hear a genre you haven't heard before. Think, hang on, I like that part, that element, what they're doing. I wonder if we could take something. I'm not saying to rip off their music, but that particular genre, fuse it. Fuse it into. I wonder if we could come up with something like that. All goes again with evolving and growing as an artist.
I mean, we've done loads of stuff like that. You know, you hear a little bit in a song by whoever, and you're like, wow. Wonder what it would sound like if we did that kind of thing with that kind of thing. And yeah, that's exactly how new ideas are born, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Rob Zombie said Black Sabbath already wrote every metal song ever, and every one of us now are just playing Black Sabbath songs faster or slower.
That's a good way. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Very true when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the difficult things we have now as well with the internet and digital technology has helped bands get out there so much. But then we can have the oversaturation as well, which is difficult. It's like, well, how am I going to stand out in the market?
Yes.
I don't just want to sound like, say, former bands, you know, mixed with a bit of this. And sometimes I'm not saying that's necessarily always a bad thing. It can still be good music. And like, hey, if this is what we're influenced by and that's naturally come out. And hey, if we sound a bit like, say, our forebearers or the band before or whoever, it's not always a bad thing as long as it's great, because it'd be like me myself if I was in a band. Oh man, it would probably be the most confusing stuff ever. They go from grindcore to brutal death to something very tribal, then some kind of dark house, dark techno, whatever. Then get an underground hip hop guy in to spit on people like, what the hell?
A hip hop grindcore crossover.
Yeah, people are like, what the hell is going on here? And literally, we're going.
Now listen to this. Listen to this. Just on that, remember how I said earlier, when we mix our songs, we have to sacrifice some elements for others. Now, hip hop and house and dark trance and that kind of stuff has that beat, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you make that beat too fast, you will hear nothing but that beat. You know, just as a practical example, of the kind of struggles we have in our production. You know, you can have, but you can't have that at 200 BPM, or you will hear fuck all else. You know.
So when you're facing those struggles, do you then all get together as a band and do one of you say, look, one of us is going to make the tough call here. We've got to sacrifice this part if it wants to.
We've done this together for so long that usually one of us just goes, nah, fuck, dude, that sound has to go. And usually it's me, usually it's Alex saying to me, dude, you layered this thing so fucking much. You're growling this long here. So if you want this sample to come out, you're going to have to fucking cut your vocal back. You know, that's the conversation. And we've learned. The first 20 times it was hard. Now we just go, just fucking delete it. Or mute it. Just let it go, you know? Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to miss it because they've never heard it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as well, you could always use that music for future songs or for another album.
Use it in the next song.
Yeah, exactly. So, with that said, you know, we talked a bit about the forthcoming album, and are there any other themes, concepts that you would like to explore using your music one day that you may not have covered?
Wow. I think there's still a lot of songs to be written. You know, like you said, Illuminati earlier. We wrote a new song. Our current drummer Jason joined us last year, and when he joined, short story long, when he joined, he had to learn all our old songs, you know, and we wanted to write something with him. And we haven't gotten to do that a lot because you don't have a lot of time for this stuff because you have to do a job, you know. Anyway, so we wrote one song with him so far, and it's called Hidden Hand. So it's all about the hidden hand throughout history, Illuminati, you know, managing the human race, ancient aliens, whatever. So, yeah. That's one theme. There's still a good couple of others I want to play with a little bit, but it'll always sort of stay in this big round genre. Maybe there's some more historical figures I want to play. There will be more serial killers and mass murderers because those are fun things to play with every now and then, you know.
It goes with the theater,
the horror
vibe, doesn't it?
It depends what I read 6 months from now, what movie I watch tomorrow night.
Whatever.
For example, there's an old movie with Al Pacino and Robin Williams called Insomnia. I don't know if you saw that. Where they're in Alaska.
No. Right.
It's an old movie, dude. It must be 15 years old. And Al Pacino is a cop. Robin Williams is a mass murderer, serial killer. And it's brilliant. Dude, you have to see Robin Williams play a bad guy. It is crazy.
Is that the one? This might be North. I think this is one with Sylvester Stallone, where it was somewhere like that, and there was kind of sat in. I remember them sat in like a therapy room or something, and one of them was a serial killer.
No. This is Robin Williams, Al Pacino, and the reason why it's called Insomnia is because it's in Alaska, 24 hours daylight. Yeah. And Al Pacino does something, and now he can't sleep, or whatever. So I watched that movie. I wrote a song about that years ago. It's not a Chaos Doctrine song. It hasn't become one yet. So those are the kind of things I watch a movie. I'm like, you know, what a cool concept. I want to do that. Or, you know, I read a piece in a newspaper somewhere and I'm like, fuck, that'd make a cool song. So yes and no. I don't know. There's many concepts I still want to play with and many I don't know that I want to play with yet. You know?
So do you get then, and I'm going to sound like an MP3 track on repeat because I say this in every show. I'll probably keep saying it. But I'm getting a sense here, maybe, do you get a visual imagination like myself? And if you hear music or you watch a movie or read something and you get those images and that kind of inspires you, think, man, I'm going to do something based on that. Or take on influence.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not as visual. Like Phil is the visual guy in the band.
Right.
I don't want to say I approach it intellectually because it sounds fucking pretentious, but it is more cognitive for me, you know? So for me, it's like, people always ask me, or the band's like, well, what are you going to do with a song? Lyric wise, I'm like, well, I want to hear the song a couple more times. So I want to feel the kind of, not emotion, but the kind of impact the song has on me. And then I choose the lyrical theme from there, usually, you know, and that's sort of how I decide. So it's more of a sort of cognitive / what is my visceral reaction to the song? that guides where my lyrics go, you know. So when it comes to visuals, then I switch my visual brain on. So you'll see our old albums videos are all on YouTube. So we often, when we play live, we've got backing visuals for all of our songs. So when I switch my visual brain on, I'm like, yeah, on this part of the song, it would look cool if you do this kind of thing. Phil executes that. So I give him the straw man, and I'm like, make it look sort of like this. And our artwork as well. I'm like, in this image, I want this kind of thing, and he'll execute it, you know?
Yeah. So do you...
I'm not purely visual in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, man. Nice different approach there. So when you've wrote your lyrics and ideas, and do you then, you know, take that to the rest of the band saying, right, man, this song that we've already got together, this is going to flow with this so nicely?
Yeah, sometimes I'll share the lyrics. I'll be like, what do you think? You know, sometimes I'll just record the vocal track, and because we play industrial, before we can play a song live, we have to track the guitars, get a sense of the drums, so that we can insert the looping and the samples and stuff. So I'll have that. So because I do all the samples and loops, usually 95% of the time I do that. And then I'll just record my vocal tracks. I'll play it for them. I'm like, what do you think? You know, how does this feel? Is this thrashy part here, deathy part there, clean vocal there? Or, you know, what's your thoughts? So yeah, I usually share my lyrics, but the oaks are usually like, whatever.
Yeah. I ask you, no, that's really cool, man. I'm always curious with how each band does it. I find that interesting. And it's always get a different answer as well, which is really cool. Total off-topic question. What's the worst piece of poo that you've ever heard musically? I know this could be subjective. Was there something like
music I've ever heard?
Yeah.
Is probably, and this is going to sound like broken record musician metalhead shit, the fucking mass-produced bullshit that they feed us now. I was actually randomly Facebook conversation with a person I don't know. Somebody posted somebody, and somebody said something, and I said, no, that's pop, except for the 80s. In the 80s, most of the pop was made by the musician. So Madonna, she didn't write all her songs, but a lot of her songs she wrote herself. Michael Jackson, a lot of his stuff he wrote himself. Prince, all his stuff he wrote himself. So whether you like pop music or not, those people were musicians. I mean, Prince was next level, but that's a different conversation. Where now, a lot of the shit that we get fed, or not me, because I don't listen to it, but on the radio, top 40 is manufactured. It's you know, and that's the worst music. Because a week from now, no one's going to fucking remember it, because it was exactly like everything else you were fed that week. And that goes for R&B, that goes for rap, that goes for pop, anything that's manufactured. I don't mean the actual rap artists, the actual...
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Pop, big Hollywood sale bullshit, you know?
It's almost with whatever genres it is, if it's so overproduced, and I don't know if that's a right way of putting it, but it's like it has no soul.
Pop music isn't a genre for me. Pop music is a thing that is produced, right? Because
and it's
popular music.
And it's not that I'm saying all pop music is bad, because you can still get some good pop music.
Oh yes, ABBA.
But it struggles against all the crap that you've been talking about to get out there.
Yeah, you can't beat the moguls, you know, the moguls who have the radio stations and TV. It's like the last time, I mean, I haven't watched MTV in like, I don't know, 15 years. I don't know. When was Headbangers Ball on? Because it's fucking, it's sort of like the mass marketing machine, you know? They want you to eat certain things. They want you to listen to certain things. They want you to look in a certain way, almost like fashion. And somebody decides this is now what it sounds like based on whatever. And then that's what gets shoved. And it's always been like that. In the 80s, I mean, when Motley Crue broke big, every other record company wanted a band like Motley Crue. And that's where the glam scene came from. when Nirvana came big, every record company needed a grunge band, and that's why the scene got so big. So it's always been like that, but now I think with social media, it's just like it's insanely big now.
But yeah, the balance has gone. When one of the things we were chatting about, I definitely can relate from a hip hop perspective, because with spending a lot of time in that scene, and that's again, all my friends are from that community as well. If I say the word hip hop now to the average person, automatically they think of all the trap, mumble rap, coochie cutter beats, etc., etc. And it's got the point, I feel, where that needs a separate name, like pop up or something, because it is.
When you say hip hop to me, I think best case scenario, Run DMC. Well, worst case scenario, all the crap after.
There's so much out
very Black American sort of rappy kind of stuff. That's what I think hip hop is.
Oh, dude, there's so much out there in underground hip hop with its own genres.
But that's why you're saying maybe you need a new name. And
exactly. Yeah, we do.
For me, hip hop is that sort of. I mean, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Will Smith stuff, wasn't that hip hop? I mean, I'm being silly, but you get what I'm saying.
I get where you.
Time for a new one.
Yeah, I get where you're going with it. I think the pop version needs a different name. Okay, it's a form of it, not a good one, but in my opinion.
But dude, it's like, if you say R&B, are you thinking Aretha Franklin and James Brown, or are you thinking Beyonce?
Yeah,
what is R&B to you? It's the same thing, right?
This is why I like if we look at EDM, I like how we've got the kind of counter-culture response from electronic music that has been around for quite some time, but is thankfully gotten a bit more known now thanks to movies like John Wick 4, the synth coming back with Stranger Things, etc. But we've got like this dark version, this dark counterpoint to it with the dark house, witch house, dark techno, etc. Where it's electronic music, but you can hear the difference. It's not as manufactured. It's not as poppy. It's got a darkness about it.
There was a time where I was huge into agrotech, which is your Suicide Commando.
They're pretty cool.
9. Tactical Sect, very distorted vocal, still very techno, but very dark, horror themed, So I love that stuff, and that also impacted on us a tiny bit because I sort of went into that, dipped around in it for like 2 years, and sort of stopped, So I still listen to it now and then, even Combi Christ.
Yeah, those are cool as well.
And my drummer is also big into that kind of stuff. They sort of more dark. But I think the scene has progressed a lot, and I sort of stayed stuck in 2006.
There's so much out there. Little Demon was about to emerge then. Luckily, went away. That'd have been professional.
It's like, dude, I'm at that stage of my life now. I think I'm listening to Led Zeppelin 4 and, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
there's so
and
I'm
exploring blues. I'm listening to Joe Bonamassa and fucking
Joe Bonamassa's awesome. Joe Bonamassa's absolutely awesome, dude.
He is amazing.
There's so much out there, and this is the beauty of look, I've clearly stated what my favorites are, but at the end of it all, I'm a lover of music. And the good thing is, when we look at independent and the alternative music scenes and underground scenes, there is literally an alternative and underground for everything. Whatever genre it is, it'll be there. And I'm going to show. It's all right. I was just going to
think about it. If you think about it, about what I just said about manufactured music and pop, if pop is everything that's produced by the machine, then surely everything else is alternative, which means blues is alternative. Proper R&B is alternative.
Drum and bass,
rap is alternative. Anything metal will always be alternative because we haven't been mainstream since Godsmack in 1994 or Disturbed. That's the last time metal had a bit of mainstream appeal in my mind, when those bands were around and big. So technically Joe Bonamassa is alternative. If you think about it, because he writes his own songs.
Well, there's even, you get alternative pop. there is alternative pop where, like I was saying,
Yes.
it's popular music, but
Yes.
they write their own songs, play their own
Yeah.
instruments. It's still a form of music, and that's the better version of pop music.
Exactly.
And because that's come from them, no one's sat in an executive room saying, right, this must be done, this must be blah blah blah, whatever.
And auto-tune the fuck out of everything.
Yeah. So there's always going to be that counterpoint, that alternative to whatever it is, and this is one of the things. And this is one of the things. Well, this is one of the things I love about doing this show, man, is talking to people such as yourselves from all these different cultures and backgrounds, musical styles. Whether I like it or not, that is not important. It really isn't, and it's just so interesting, and it's helping. I'm hoping show people like, hey, look at all this music that's out there, whether it's the heaviest thing on the planet or it's some blues or alternative pop or indie music, whatever it is. I mean, there was a band who come on a couple of weeks ago from New York, a shoegaze band, and I know nothing about that kind of music. The closest I've ever heard is, like, again, I said this phrase earlier, black and shoegaze, which I'd imagine is just a black metal singer making shoegaze music. I've no idea what shoegaze music is. And I was talking to these guys, and I was doing my best to kind of describe what I heard, to put it in some kind of sense, I guess. I probably butchered it, but they were really nice guys, and they write all their own songs, the lyrics, getting out there, touring, etc. And even said, look, well, maybe not the heaviest band, but what they're doing is still real. It's their music, they're writing. Some people might think, oh, well, this is quite light, whatever, but it's still alternative. So, I mean, stoner rock, it's endless, man.
Exactly.
Dan, I could talk to you forever, as you've probably gathered. And the only reason I'm thinking of wrapping this up, because Cryptic's Mortality are due on in just over 60 minutes, and I need to get something to eat before I drown them in verbal vomitory. And it is a brutal death slam band, so I'm going to be pretty hyped.
We'll do this again in a couple months when our album is out, and I can do that.
Definitely, man. We'll do a deep dive about it. You're welcome back anytime. When we get to the end of the show, I always like to give guests the last shout out. So if there's anything you would like to shout out, plug, may have missed, the floor is yours, sir.
No, maybe just thank you, firstly, for having us. Thanks for Brett for connecting us, and just check out Chaos Doctrine. We always say there's something for everyone,
Definitely.
So if you listen to the album and you're into your more extreme kind of music, then I'm sure you'll find something on there you like.
And to support that claim, as a nerd, a colossal nerd, and if you love sci-fi as well, there's a reason to support Chaos Doctrine just for that element, because you've got the mix of nice raw thrash mixed with death metal and industrial with sci-fi dystopian vibes well. So there we go. There is a reason as well. Man, I'm so easy to get. Ninja, samurai, sci-fi, horror, fantasy. I'm like, yep, I'll buy that.
But do you like Hellraiser? Is Hellraiser?
Yes,
Please go listen on our first album. Go listen to My Demise.
Ooh.
And just go listen to My Demise on our first album, and then send me a mail and tell me why I told you to go listen to it.
Yeah, definitely I will do, man. Funny you mentioned Hellraiser. That's one of the movies that always gets brought up a lot on the shows, along with Evil Dead. And there's only been one guest so far, I think, that liked the Hellraiser reboot. So far, nobody else liked it, including myself.
I didn't mind it. I didn't love it, but I didn't mind it.
First 20 minutes, Rook. It's not the worst movie ever. In fact, no, it's not, because I've just realized what I'm roasting with Ross this weekend over at Planet X Films, which is Expendables 4. And my God, that was absolutely horrendous. Talk about making the franchise expendable and pretty much circumcising.
The first three were amazing.
I
haven't seen the fourth one. The first three were amazing. I love it.
I like the first two. 3 was okay. First 2 were amazing.
Okay, yeah. First 2 brilliant. Third one, yeah. Oh, that's sad.
Okay, I have to give. I have to give credit to Ross for this. Spoiler alert, folks. Why someone decided to put Megan Cox, is that what she's called, as Ross called her, Megan Flop? in the role of a kind of special forces leader. You know, she literally looks like she's on a night on the town. It's just not convincing at all. But I better behave myself. I'm going to go off on a rant about this. So I'll save that, folks. That if you like movie roasts and hearing nerds to see why they're upset about something, check out the Planet X Films channel this Sunday at 10 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. West Coast US time. Myself and Ross will be roasting it to death. Anyway, back to Chaos Doctrine. See, got myself going
Chaos
again.
Doctrine. Yeah, we'll connect again. The new album will be out somewhere early next year. We have to decide. I haven't decided yet, but it will be probably early 2024. We'll throw our new album at you, and we'll have a little conversation about that.
Oh, definitely, man! I look forward to doing a deep dive with you again and our random tangents and stuff. Man, this has been awesome.
This has been
thoroughly
so
enjoyed
fun.
it. Oh, definitely,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
If the next guest wasn't you, I'd literally sit. I'd still talk to you. I'm just like, I would, man. So I've got to give a shout out again to Brett and Minnie. Shout out throughout the show. Thank you for connecting us, man. But just thanks to both of you. I really, really do appreciate it. That's awesome stuff. And hopefully get to see you this time, the next show. Shout out to everybody who's either watched live or listens in later. It's greatly appreciated. I will be back, as I said, in about 55 minutes or so with Cryptic's Mortality, so I better quickly burn something to eat. Thanks everyone for watching, and now it's uncomfortable pause time as I hit end stream and pretty much look like I'm possessed as usual. So here we go. Silly pause time. And again, thanks to Dan.